Broadcasting from deep behind enemy lines in the occupied territory of the Socialist Republic of California, your host, former California State Assemblyman and Governor candidate, Tim Donnelly.
Hey, welcome to a special edition of the Radio Free California Network. Day after Thanksgiving, here we are. Many call it Black Friday. Well, evidently in Chicago, Black Friday became Black Lives Matter protest, and the protesters shut down the main Chicago Miracle Mile shopping area. Over 2,000 protesters, thousands upon thousands marched on Chicago's most prestigious shopping street, disrupting business on one of the busiest U.S. retail days, of course, holding signs, "Stop Police Terror." They gathered in a cold drizzle for the march on Chicago's, Miracle Mile, Magnificent Mile, which runs down Michigan Avenue. And surprise, surprise, we had activist politician, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was leading the protest. Here's the only problem. When you do that on a day like that, you're not hurting the police, who are going to get paid overtime to make sure you don't get violent. You're only hurting ordinary people who are going shopping and looking for deals, and you're going to hurt the store owners, the small business owners, and those who work for them. I mean, that's the bottom line. Everyone has a right to protest. I'm not disputing that, but the timing and the target are a bit suspect. The protest is over the shooting of Laquan. Let me find his name here. Laquan McDonald. Once again, a police-involved shooting that is being investigated. And I guess the question is, I understand that they believe that Black Lives Matter, but do they believe anyone else's lives matter? That's my question. That's my concern. Obviously, there's going to be a process. They're going to look into this, and in the end, something's going to happen. And that might be a more appropriate time to hold the protest during one of those moments when people are paying attention and they're focused on that case. Most people are not at work today. They're taking off, maybe taking off for the weekend, or taking off for, God forbid, the shopping malls, which, as you know, actually, there's a bunch of stories out that it's not as heavy as normal, and I'm a little surprised. I expected this to be one of the heavier shopping days, because we're coming out of a recession, sort of. You know, it always seems like we see a little bit of economic activity. We see some growth. We see the economy starting to go somewhere, and then all of a sudden it falters. And one of the ways you judge how the economy is doing is by what consumers think. And consumers are real simple. When they don't feel confident, they don't spend money. And so that's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what happens in the end. There's all kinds of news in Chicago. Colorado, there's a man who took over a Planned Parenthood clinic, has shot several people, and is still not yet in custody. And no one knows yet what his grievance is with the Planned Parenthood clinic. That hasn't stopped liberal commentators from automatically assuming he's pro-life, and that is why he is in there shooting up the clinic. I think I'll wait and find out what the actual story is without jumping to conclusions. had a great Thanksgiving, and then on Thanksgiving evening, we got ready for a white Christmas with an amazing snowfall, sitting by the fire, very relaxed, wonderful evening, and once again, makes me grateful to live in a free country, in a place where I can come on air 3 hours a day and complain about my government. And I'm trying really hard today to not be hyper political, but and to that note, I want to let you know we have a fantastic guest coming up. She and her fiance, but Mimi Page, who, if you have never heard of her, you may have heard her music because it's been featured in television shows and movie soundtracks and whatnot. She is on her way to major success and has a brand new album out called The Ethereal Blues. And I'm just going to read you the intro of sort of a description of who she is so you can get excited, because she will be in studio here about halfway through the 3 o'clock hour. Mimi Page, self-produced singer, songwriter, and composer, born and raised in LA, a modern hybrid of dream pop and trip hop. I've never heard of either of those, but I will give you my opinion on the music later, which will surprise you. Page's style blends beat-driven, piano-infused soundscapes with haunting, ethereal vocals. That's it right there. Haunting, ethereal vocals that, in my opinion, will transform your soul and heal whatever ails you emotionally. This music is something unlike anything I had ever heard. And it takes the right time and space to hear it. So I figured so many people are running around on Black Friday, getting into brawls in Walmarts. And by the way, if you see a great deal on a TV out there, something, I'm not sure what length or what size our TV is. I want to say maybe a 20-inch or something like that. So something a little bigger than that, I'm sure we could handle in this armoire TV stand. But at any rate, if you hear of any great deals, you're welcome to call in at 323-746-TALK. Going to take a quick break, and we'll come back right after this. Hey, welcome back to the Radio Free California Network with a special edition of the Tim Donnelly Show. We're going to have a special music guest, an artist who is also a personal friend of mine and an extraordinary person, coming up a little bit later on in the show. So whatever you do, stay tuned, because if you are out there for Black Friday, you're going to need to hear some of her music. It will soothe your soul and heal whatever ails you. All kinds of crazy stories out there about Black Friday. In Utah, in Perry, Utah, there was a man that was lurking around for hours, and because they tracked him on videotape, and eventually tried to snatch a woman's 3-year-old grandchild and was foiled in the plot, thankfully. But the guy was there for 4 hours. And the people, the grandmother was shocked. She said, "I can't believe that people are that predatory. Here we are in just a small town that someone would try to take your child." But you've got to understand that while the rest of the world is being thankful, some people are looking to pray. And evidently, I didn't know this, Black Friday is one of the biggest days for thievery. It is, well, I guess you don't want to call it the theft holiday, but it's the top day for theft, according to authorities. And I guess you could see that because people are so distracted by their excitement, their lust for whatever good or product that they are looking to get. And I just got a text from my wife who said, "Oh, so you do want to get a new TV?" Well, yeah, honey, go ahead and give me the measurements. I only want to get a new TV if we can get a really good deal, because we have one that still works, even though it's about 15 years old. It keeps on ticking. It's a little bit hard to see, but that's life. But then again, what kind of deals are there? I mean, what happens on Saturday? So you have Black Friday. You have all these deals. You practically have them giving stuff away. You have to wait in line overnight. What happens the next day? Because I always like to wait out the sale and then go in and clean up later. Like, I'd rather shop after Christmas in January when they're looking to get rid of stuff, because Christmas is now a full 12 months away. But how does that work in terms of Black Friday? I'm just curious. If you have any idea, 323-746-TALK. But one thing, I was looking at the financial pages. Online sales are the highest ever. So maybe people are just sick and tired of the crowds and the mayhem, and they're shopping now instead of on Cyber Monday. I love how they give these days. They name all of them as if somehow, you will wait and do your, okay, so on Black Friday, you're going to go out there, or maybe, Thursday night or earlier, wait in line in the freezing cold, camp out, buy your stuff, then come home. I don't know what you're supposed to do on Saturday or Sunday, maybe rest, but Cyber Monday, you got to start buying again. I don't think people actually, let me take that back. If you offer deals on Cyber Monday, then you're going to get people to actually show up and take advantage of them. But if you don't offer something, people are not, they're not going to respond to just a generic prompt. There has to be something in it for them. At least that's my experience. And give me a second here. I'm trying to pull up this one story, but it's not coming up. That is the nature of the beast. In a Kentucky mall, there was a brawl that kicked off the violence for Black Friday. And why is it these things always happen at Walmart? And I'm not singling out Walmart. That every story I've read so far involves a Walmart. And they've got this video up, and you can see people just brawling. Tempers flared as law enforcement agencies struggled to keep control. This was at a Louisville, Kentucky mall on Thanksgiving night. Shoppers wrestled each other to the ground in a packed food court. The fracas knocked one woman to the floor as shoppers at Mall St. Matthew gawked at the sight of two unidentified men slapping, punching, and tearing at each other's shirt. It's like high school. And here's the thing. There's always somebody there with a video camera. Somebody's always got their cell phone. And you just got to wonder what provokes you in the middle of what's supposed to be a joyful season, where you're supposed to be celebrating Thanksgiving. You're supposed to be grateful for everything you have and all the blessings of liberty. You look at this beautiful mall, and I guess they're going to have to call it Black Eye Friday, because it's that's what's going on there. Yeah. You know what I think we're going to do? By the way, later on in the show, I promised you that I would play the clip from Will Smith. I teased you a little bit of his interview. I'm going to play that later on in today's show. for right now, I actually want to play a little bit of one of the songs that's on the album. And Sean, I don't know if you can pick this one up, if you can bring me Treading the Abyss. I want to play a little bit of that as a tease for our musical guest who will be in studio shortly. And that is called Treading the Abyss. It is off the Requiem album by Mimi Page, and that's one of her older albums. It only has 4 songs on it. I purchased it when I went to a live concert of hers, and when I started to play that and hear it, it transformed my mind, and I believe this music is transformative. You will not want to miss Mimi Page in studio here at the Radio Free California Network. We'll be right back. Our musical guest will be in studio at 4 p.m. So in the 4 o'clock hour, you want to stay tuned if you're interested in music, especially if you're interested in how someone became an artist, because that's always fascinated me. And so I want to bring you the interview that I promised you from Will Smith. He did this sit down and did something like a 45-minute interview with Hollywood Reporter. And I've always wondered the keys to success, especially to somebody who is the best at what they do. And Will Smith is very candid. he opens up and he lays it out there. He tells you how he got where he got and what his plan was. And, one of the things that I find very remarkable about Will Smith is he's extremely humble and down to earth. This is the kind of guy I would love to spend some time with because there's just something magical about him and he's not stuck on himself. Anyway, here's a little bit of the interview that he did with Hollywood Reporter.
Thank you very much again for coming in and doing this.
Well, thank you for having me, sir.
Definitely. And before we talk about concussion, which is so great, and obviously that's going to be a big focus of this, I want to do some big picture stuff. So to begin with, the biggest movie star in the world. That was something that, from what I understand, when you became an actor, that was the goal, right?
Yeah, that was a very, very weird goal to have. It's funny. I learned a lot about acting from having that goal.
Yeah.
I've told the story a couple of times. When I was 15 years old, my first girlfriend cheated on me. And it was so devastating to me to be cheated on. I remember that I made a pact with myself that if I would just be the best in the world at everything, no one would ever cheat on me again.
Well, I mean, I'm sure she regrets it now. So.
So when I took on acting, I made the goal for myself that I wanted to be the most famous actor on earth.
Yes.
But it was directly connected to, in this bizarre psychological way, of that would somehow maintain my love relationships.
Well, listen, whatever it is, you did it. And I guess I wonder for you, as you kind of look back at things, people, trying to figure out what's the secret sauce. How do you get the Midas touch? That one thing I've read, people like Will Smith because he's never given them a reason not to like Will Smith. But that's a big thing in and of itself because that takes, for when you've been in the public eye for as long as you have, takes discipline and drive. And where does that aspect of your personality come from?
I would say in that aspect, if there's one thing that has been the not secret sauce, but there is no secret sauce, right? But in that vein is I only ever created entertainment for my grandmother to be proud of.
Really? She was important to you?
My grandmother's, there was a look. My grandmother was at Resurrection Baptist Church. She was that grandmother at the church, right? Yeah, so she was the grandmother that was organizing all of the shows. So that my first performing was at the church.
Okay.
And there was a look of pride that my grandmother used to have when she would watch me perform. So for my entire career, I've yearned for that look. And it was based on really solid values that she raised me with. And I was fortunate enough to have those connected to the things that I put out into the world.
Right.
So when I started rapping, I couldn't put profanity in my raps because my grandmother didn't like it. So I would say in terms of that, I've always set out to create things that my grandmother would be proud of when she went to church.
So originally the goal was not, I want to be a movie star, right? It was, I want to be a rapper, right?
Yeah, it started with music. I started DJing.
Okay.
I started off DJing, and when I was probably about 16 years old, Jazzy Jeff stole a party from me on my block.
Oh, geez.
So it was before before we were a group.
Right.
So I went up to see who this joker is that stole my part on my block. He gonna do a party on my block.
That's some balls.
That's almost, we almost would have had to fight over that. And I went and I saw him DJ, and I never touched turntables again after that day. And I went and I rapped with him that night, and that was the last day of me DJing. He was so out somewhere else, and I couldn't figure out how he was creating that. And, he was a big part of the creation of scratching
right.
in hip hop.
Yeah.
So it was, when you run across a savant like that, it's sort of, you'll make an adjustment in what your aspirations are.
Now, you guys together, like, just to remind people, when it hit, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so
man.
you were still in high school.
Yeah, I had a record on the radio for 30 days as a senior in high school. So the last 30 days of my high school
Pretty
career,
damn
I had a
good.
hit record
Yeah.
on the radio. So that's as good as it
I was
gets.
gonna say.
It's been all downhill since then.
So now the name, The Fresh Prince, where does that come from?
Probably right around eighth, ninth grade, I had a teacher who started calling me Prince Charming. All right, I never liked homework,
Right.
But I would always find myself on the good side of teachers.
Okay.
Right. So it was I was that kid that we could smile and talk and come on, just like, I mean, let me give me 2 days, so I could talk my way in and out of situations very well. So she started calling me Prince, based on Prince Charming. And then, when fresh was the new hip hop slang, I added the fresh to the Prince and et voila.
Yeah. So how is it that acting entered the picture with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I guess? And also, one of the things that you have in common with a lot of the greatest movie stars ever, whether it's Cary Grant or Harrison Ford, is that outside of these biopics that you've done, in a sense, and certainly in the case of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, from what I've read, you were playing yourself.
Right, exactly. So, first off, all of my songs, the way that I write, my first record was called Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble. And then my big hit of that time was Parents Just Don't Understand.
Right.
Then I had one called I Think I Can Beat Mike Tyson. So my style of writing was storytelling. So it was always storytelling. And then what happened is, if you write a record that's a story, you end up having to act the story out in the video. So from the very first, my videos were always theatrical. So there was always a character that I had to play, and there was always a storyline. Right. And records had I learned story structure from records. It was 3 verses back then. So it was a verse, hook, and if you get real fancy, you do a bridge, then you do,
Right.
another verse, right? So, it was an extremely theatrical undertaking for me to make a music video.
Yeah.
So Quincy Jones saw my music videos, and he came to me with Benny Medina for the ideas for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And he never actually asked me if I could act. He just assumed that I could from what he had seen in the music videos.
And so throughout that whole run, it's essentially you were a lot of improv, a lot of things that being Will.
I was doing me. I made my character from Philly.
Right.
The Benny Medina actually went from Watts to Beverly Hills.
Okay.
So we just changed it from Philly to Bel-Air. And I guess one of the greatest things for me that happened as an actor is every actor on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they were all stage trained actors.
Wow.
Everybody had over, a decade or 2 decades on the stage. Even Alfonso, who was, just barely out of his teens, had already had 10 years of stage training.
So that's your acting school.
Right. So that was my acting school. James Avery, Janet Hubert, Witten, Joe Marcel, everybody was stage trained.
Right.
So every day was a workout on the set with, some of the best actors and one of the best casts that's ever been assembled.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well,
that's truly
I don't
amazing.
Know if this
that
particular incident that I want to ask
you could have someone
but
who has now become one of the best actors in the world, commands $20 million per picture minimum, and he started out without any formal training. And see, that's part of what I find so exciting about Will Smith's story. We'll continue it when we come back. And don't forget, we're going to have a special musical guest, Mimi Page, and her fiance are coming live in studio. You will not want to miss that hour. Hey, welcome back to a special edition of the Radio Free California Network. We're going politics free today. Yes, you might be shocked. But you know what? Hey, we have all year to do that. It's Thanksgiving weekend coming upon us, and I just figured we'd take a day and focus on something else. And right now it happens to be artists. We've got Mimi Page coming in to the studio. She will be live and in person, and we'll be sharing with you some of her amazing music. And when I say it's transformative, when I say it will not just touch your soul, but transform your soul, believe me. And when you hear some of it, if it doesn't touch you, then maybe nothing can help. I don't know. But my experience driving and listening to a couple of her songs, something happened that I didn't expect. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Right now, we are playing an interview that Will Smith did, and it's surprising for such a huge star. He's so humble, he's so down to earth, and his recipe for success is something that I think you could duplicate. We could all learn from his experience on going from a complete unknown individual to one of the greatest movie stars in the world, at least one of the highest paid ones. And here he is at the height of his fame, sharing his ideas.
Not an incident, but event happened.
Hey man, I ain't touched them people.
Well, so in the chronological order, went along the line. I've heard this story. I believe it's true that you and your manager, I think James Lassiter, sat down and looked at the most successful movies of all time and had a conversation. What was that? When did that happen?
So that was probably 1990. So James Lassiter, he grew up in our neighborhood, and he started off. He would hand records to Jazzy Jeff. So what would happen at the party, you would be playing the song, and as the DJ, he's going fast, he would need somebody to hand the record. So that was JL's job to hand Jeff the records. Yeah. So in 1986, we put out our first record. That was the year I graduated from high school, and JL went and got a law degree. So we needed one of our friends, it was like, because we were really focused on being stupid. So we knew that one of our friends had to be smart, because we were like dedicated to dumbness. So
he was the guy.
So JL was the guy. He went to college, got a law degree, and came back and took over the management of Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. So as we moved through the first 4 years from 86 to 90 is when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air started. So from 86 to 90 with doing the music, we won the first Grammy ever given to a rap artist in 88, but then we flopped an album. So I knew I could smell that the musical days were going to be numbered. Right. And so I sat with JL and I said, you know what, I want to try acting. And it was right around 90, and we started moving into the Fresh Prince, and I said, okay, I want to be the biggest movie star in the world. And he said, okay, well, let's figure out what that means. Right. And he went and got the top 10 movies of all time, the list of the top 10 movies of all time.
At the box office.
At the box office, top 10 box office successes. And we also looked at them adjusted for
inflation,
for inflation and views versus dollar value. Right. So we looked at all of the different variations. What we found is at the center, there were always special effects. So it was always special effects. There was always creatures. there was always a love story.
Okay.
So we started looking for movies that had special effects, creatures, and a love story. And that Independence Day, and then right into Men in Black,
right.
and that sort of became the platform
right.
of where we based our choices on.
It's so interesting, and I guess anyone could have looked at those stats and said, "This is what I want to do," but you guys made it happen. You made it happen,
Yeah.
and I guess before the big blockbuster started, though, there was 6 Degrees of Separation.
Right. Absolutely.
And you've said that was one that taught you a lot because it maybe also taught you what not to do going forward, right?
Well, what 6 Degrees did, that was almost a necessity. That was at a time no one was taking me seriously. No one thought that I could actually act. So JL and I sat and we talked about, what did we have to do to change that perception? It was like, well, it's just like music. In music, there's a thing, you call it a FU record. Like when you have a FU record, when you listen in the studio and you have a record that is so undeniable, it does not matter what you've done before. And you can tell everybody at the radio station and anybody who ever hated you you can say, "Hey, F you. I dare you to try not to play this record."
Right. That's great. That's great.
And that's what we did. So we started looking for that with screenplays and with movies, and we wanted to look for concepts and ideas. And
a great concept to actually analyze it. This is the part that's amazing. This guy didn't go to college. He didn't go off and get a degree. He actually did things, created things, started his own business, figured it out, and spent a lot of time having fun. You could hear it in his voice. And I think one of the keys to success clearly has to be having fun at what you're doing. And we will be right back after these messages with hopefully our live musical in-studio guest, Mimi Page, and her extraordinary music. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to a special edition of the Radio Free California Network. I am still Tim Donnelly. I am your host, former California State Assemblyman and radio governor here in the state of California, but we're not doing politics today. We've taken a break for the holidays. We figured, why not? Why not be thankful for what we have? And so I invited a friend of mine, Mimi Page, who is, by the way, I've been reading all about you, Mimi. I didn't realize how famous you were and all these different things you've done. I mean, touring with was it Jackson Brown?
Jefferson Starship.
Oh, Jefferson Starship. I mean, I used to listen to them when I was younger. Anyway, Mimi Page has joined us, along with her fiance, has joined us live in studio. And she is a singer, songwriter, composer. And I have to read this again because I love this description of your work. A modern hybrid of dream pop, trip hop, which I've never heard of. Page's style blends beat-driven, piano-infused soundscapes with haunting ethereal vocals. And let me tell you, those vocals will haunt you because they're never the same. I hear your music differently every single time.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I got to tell you, when I first heard you perform live, I thought, that's nice. That was my reaction. And you're probably ready to smack me, or at least Jason is here.
Oh, no.
But I got one of your CDs, and it was the Requiem, which I have right here in front of me. And I keep calling it Treading the Abyss because that's the first song on it. And I love how simple it is. I played it over and over again, going to work and from work, which is about a 45-minute drive. And it just literally transformed me.
Wow.
And spoke to me. And I can listen to it over and over again and never hear it the same. And there's not a lot of music you can do that with. And in our crazy culture, you need some place you can go to, but you don't have time. So like when you're driving, and I love CDs, by the way, I'm old school. I got the whole, what do you call that? Pandora. I went on your Pandora channel, hate it. You want to know why? Because they play other people's music. I don't want to hear them. I want to hear you.
Thank you.
So anyway, I got to ask you, how did you get started? I mean, people are fascinated because a lot of people say, I could do that, but how did you get started in music and doing all this?
Oh, I wrote my first song when I was about 5 years old. I come from a lineage of musicians.
5?
Yes.
Holy moly.
Yes. My grandmother was a concert pianist. My mother was on Broadway, a triple threat actress, dancer, singer. And my aunt was an opera singer. So I kind of came from the DNA of musicians, but I started writing in my mind. I would hear songs on the radio, mostly classical, and I would think, what about this? What about this? So it kind of spoke to me like a language. So when I was on tour with my mom on her Broadway show, and we got off, and I finally had a stable living environment, and I went to elementary school, and I had a music teacher, but my grandmother was teaching me at home. And so I started playing on the side of learning scales and classical theory, kind of my own music that I was hearing in my mind. So this kind of was just a gift that was given to me. So the older that I've gotten, I kind of have evolved. So it's a language that I speak, and I'm very spiritual. So I've really realized that it's just my way of kind of communicating my ethereal realm that I consider God. And I try to just put that into physical form, and that's my music.
Wow. That was extremely eloquent. I mean, first of all, so you had music in your blood.
Yes.
I mean, here you are at 5. And it's interesting because I just watched a movie with, it was the story of, what's his first name? Brian Wilson.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that moment where they show him composing and he hears it.
Yeah.
Nobody else can hear it. Then he has to figure out how to make it so that other people can hear what is in his head.
Oh, God.
Is that kind of what you go through?
Yeah, it's maddening. I feel almost schizophrenic at times. Since I was a kid, I would feel things as well as hear them. And I would feel like if I didn't channel that energy, I would go crazy. So I would sit at the piano and I would try to figure out what I was hearing, and these songs would pop out. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just how I have to kind of channel this energy. So I do feel that way, not at Brian Wilson's level, but, in my own way.
Wow. Okay, so tell me, and I don't know how to ask this other than just ask it. Some of your music, I feel, you have literally walked through the shadow of the valley of the shadow of death.
Wow.
And because it speaks to me and spoke to me at some very low moments. And I thought, wow, she's been there, because you can feel it in the music. And I don't know how, I'm not a touchy-feely kind of guy. Everybody knows me as a guy that kind of rants and raves on politics. And yet I was shocked at how my soul was touched and transformed. So tell me a little bit about you. I mean, have you been in those dark places? Is that part of where this music comes from?
That's so beautiful to me. That's the reason why I create music. It's because I feel like, at least in this day and age, we're all living in a social media kind of format where we're always distracted and we're very busy all the time. And so,
and as you say, distracted, I'm looking at my phone.
Oh, there you go. But I feel like I want to provide a home where we can be introspective again and we can get in touch with our feelings again. Because I've always been a very sensitive person, and with that comes a lot of blessings and curses. So whatever I experience in my life, I kind of feel too much. And so, the slightest thing will make me break down or make me celebrate and joy. Like, I'll see a cloud go by or a sunset and I'll think it's the most beautiful moment in the world. Or, something horrible will happen to me and I'll feel like this is the end. It's the complete end. So I have gone through a lot in my life. I've lived a very rich life. I'm 28 now, and I feel like I've lived as much as I could possibly hope to live. So I guess what you hear in my music is my way of experiencing life, but also what I said is I'm very spiritual with it. So when I'm writing, I do go to those dark, dark depths of the human spirit where there is despair and there is hopelessness, but also there's a light at the end of that dark tunnel, which was kind of what this album was about, the Ethereal Blues, because the blues is kind of the concept of this record, my pain and my soul and the things that I've gone through and the things that we kind of live through as a human race. And then the ethereal, the beauty of my music, it's very peaceful. It's almost like it's a calm within the hurricane.
Well, speaking of hurricanes and humans, one of the songs you have is entitled Human Hurricane. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Mimi Page, who has a new album out. You have several albums out, which I'm excited about, but this latest one is just fantastic. It's called The Ethereal Blues, and we've got a link up at timdonnellyshow.com. You can go straight to Mimi's music page, buy her music, support what she's doing. You can even just download it by paying and download it online. I know I'm more into the whole actually purchasing a CD, which I know you can do the same way. But anyway, when we come back, I want to come back from the break with Human Hurricane, and we're going to listen to that song for a little bit, and then I want you to talk about the inspiration for that.
Sounds great.
You are listening to the Radio Free California Network, and we will be right back. The song is Human Hurricane, and the album, The Ethereal Blues. We have Mimi Page, artist, singer, songwriter, composer, live and in studio. Welcome back, Mimi.
Hi.
That is just, that song gets me every time. You gotta tell me, where did the inspiration for that song come from?
I'm very interested in the dark side of life and kind of why the world's in such a horrible state. And I think the only way to understand what's wrong with the world is to kind of look at yourself and kind of where we go wrong internally. So I was in a huge fight with somebody that I loved very much, and it was kind of my fault. I was very angry, and I said a lot of things that I didn't mean. And so
Can't believe that. I never do that.
I think we all can get out of line. And
my wife just texted me. Doesn't believe that one.
Well, I was looking at myself, and I wrote in my journal, and I was like, where is this coming from? And then I kind of did a psychological backlog of why I would say those things and why I would feel those things. And I just thought, my rage can be like a hurricane. Like, I'm not even in control of myself anymore, but inside I'm still the same person, and I'm very calm, and I have a lot of love in me, and my love didn't go away. I guess got swept up with my emotion. And after I wrote that song, I was thinking about everybody who's ever hurt me, or even collectively. There's a lot of horrible things going on in the world. There's a lot of serial killers, terrorism, all of that. And I'm like, where did these people go wrong? And, I think that it's important, no matter how horrific people are, to just try to see the humanity and kind of look at everybody like they're children in a way that are just totally lost. And so that's kind of the inspiration behind this song.
Wow. That's incredible. And I mean, there's all kinds of amazing songs on this CD, and I'm tempted to just play your music the whole time, but then, we wouldn't talk. But talk to me about the your own journey, because obviously you started as a very young person, 5. You had huge musical background and performance background in your family, but that doesn't mean you're going to be successful and all of a sudden make it. And your music is being used in some soundtracks and in other places, so you are starting to get the attention and the success that you have earned. And I want to know a little bit more about the journey. I mean, were you born out here? Did you come here?
I have an interesting background. I was born in Los Angeles, but my mother was a touring artist. So I grew up the first 5 years of my life on tour with her all around the world, actually. We lived on a cruise ship for a year. She was performing there when I turned 2.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be interesting.
It was. I was so young. I mean, I do remember parts of it, but I think your formative years are shaped kind of age 0 to 5 subconsciously. So I was a world traveler by that time. And at 5, I started writing music. So I must have picked up something along the way that inspired me to start writing. So basically, I actually never wanted to do music for a living. I really wanted to be a professional gymnast. So I was competing in gymnastics tournaments until I was about 10, and I got too tall, and that broke my heart. Yeah, it broke my heart. And so I kind of had to call it quits. And then when you, I guess, as a teenager, hit puberty, a lot of us get really depressed. And so I kind of, at 13, just totally lost touch with the world, and I didn't really understand where I was anymore. I didn't understand my parents. I didn't understand my classmates or the news or anything. So I really was withdrawn, and I started writing a lot of poetry. And then I started adding my poetry to my instrumental songs on the piano, and kind of started writing from there and doing coffee houses and such. And then in high school, I discovered electronic music, and I built a studio in my bedroom, and kind of started producing my own songs. Just YouTube tutorials, whatever.
Wow. Now, how old were you when you built the studio and started?
Well, I went to a specialty high school. So by senior year, I had learned engineering, basic engineering. So right when I graduated high school, I got a laptop and a microphone and a MIDI keyboard, and started recording in GarageBand and doing demos and stuff, and submitting them to MySpace. And I started getting a following by that, which was really crazy. I'm like, what, something that I love so much, people want to listen to. So up until this point, it's been a really kind of difficult journey, because my music is more down tempo and melodic, but I believe in the law of attraction. So, I've had one record deal that kind of was a pivotal point in my career. I signed my first record to a record label that kind of didn't want me to be myself. So I kind of took that as, I think I need to go the independent route and just really follow my heart and my soul, and not be so result-based like this is my trajectory. I just kind of want to follow where I'm personally evolving in my art and my craft, because that's what I think people really resonate with.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's something, and it's funny because I've been listening to your music today, trying to figure out, okay, which tracks am I going to pull? And then I hear another one. I'm like, oh, I love that one too.
Oh.
How can I pick, And so when we come back from this next break, I want you to pick the song from the Ethereal Blues that we return with, because I obviously, you must have your favorite. It must be hard, but you gotta, on some level, have a favorite.
I do.
All right. Tell me which one it is.
Well, it changes day to day, but mostly Time is my favorite.
We will return with Time. And why? Tell me why.
I'm just on this really introspective kick right now where I'm reading a lot of metaphysical, books and stuff. And I'm very interested in the afterlife. And in the process of writing this record, 3 people very close to me passed away. So I feel like, it's about just my acceptance of the afterlife, and that this is very temporary. And I believe that we will carry on after our physical bodies leave this plane.
Wow. Okay, we're talking with Mimi Page. Ethereal Blues is the album, and we will be right back. Listening to Time. The album is the Ethereal Blues. The artist is Mimi Page, who is live and in studio with us here at the Radio Free California Network Studios. Thanks for making the drive out from LA.
No problem. I love the drive.
And Mimi, you've were sharing with us earlier that you've been composing since you were 5. here you went into your well, the way I tell young parents about what's going to happen when their kids hit the teenage years is say goodbye to them when they hit 13, and you'll be reintroduced to them when they come back to their senses at about 18, or maybe even later. But you went through that and decided to sort of channel it into poetry, into writing, and then that naturally progressed into putting it to music, and you created your own little studio in your bedroom. And look, with today's technology, you can do a whole lot with very little money, can't you?
It's a miracle this day and age. I mean, at the risk of everybody doing it, I think it's amazing because it gives everybody an outlet to be creative. So yeah, it's a magical time, especially when the economy has been so hard and kids are graduating and not finding a lot of hope with student loans and the high costs of living. I think it's so amazing that we can all be so creative on such a short budget. Yeah.
And I'm sure if anybody has a question about getting into music, we'd be happy to take it. Phone number is 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255 if you happen to be driving in that monster traffic headed to Vegas. But let's go back to ethereal blues, because it's a little bit different than some of your earlier music. Mm-hmm. And you sort of took a different direction, and it's a more mature album, I think. You call it your sophomore album, which I thought was a very interesting term. Talk to me a little bit about where all this came from, because you have so many different pieces, and don't let me forget to tell you about Transcending the Physical, because I think that is one of the coolest tracks on the whole album.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, basically I approached this with trying to conquer my fear as just a human being. And, at the end of the day, we're on a floating rock in space spinning, it boils down to that. So the fact that any of us feel limited is ridiculous. And I really approached music as like this huge mountain that was, how am I going to break in? My music is so different than what I'm hearing on the radio, and, financially everybody's pirating music, and I'm like, this negativity doesn't really make sense, and I just come off a record deal where my first record didn't really do what I wanted it to. So I kind of just took my power back, and I was like, okay, if I completely ignore the world and I just think, what do I want out of my own life? I just want to create beauty and make people happy. That's like literally all that I feel I'm programmed to do. So with that in mind, what do I sound like? And so I sat down, and the first take at this whole record, I wrote the whole record and I didn't like it. It was too poppy. I was being told from different directions, oh, well, you can't do down tempo. That's not what's happening right now. And I'm like, you know what? Screw that, So I scrapped the whole record and I reapproached it, and just like Transcending the Physical, the track that you're talking about, I really approached the album from a very ethereal place where I was diving into the depths of my soul and the darkness that I was feeling as a human being, and thinking, okay, how could I express God in such a dark place? Like, what is the light in this tunnel? And so that's kind of how I created the sound, because lyrically, a lot of these songs are pretty dark, but the sonic beauty of it kind of gives you that resonance of hope in kind of the darkness that we face as humans.
Love it. Let's play a little bit of Transcending the Physical to give people a taste of the album, The Ethereal Blues. Wow. That you have to get this album, and you have to listen to it over and over again to really get it, because half the time I don't hear the lyrics. I'll hear the music, and I don't even know what to call it, because I don't know how to break down your music, because it is very you have a lot of technological aspects to it, but then there's the classical pianist that I can hear. I mean, that's part of what gives you a real edge.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, the lyrics obviously come from your soul. They come from maybe that 13-year-old girl who was writing that poetry as a way of expressing.
I would say the lyrics are more my human experience here, and the music is my soul. And I think that they're two different things. I feel like that's what Transcending the Physical is about, which is the only song that I don't have lyrics on. Because when I'm in this meditative state, I kind of sing without a language. It's kind of my own language. So a lot of the lyrics are kind of just the struggle here in the confines of being a human being in society in the modern day, and being a young woman, especially in the music industry, which is very challenging and interesting at the same time. But the music, I feel, is the purest form of myself, which is my soul, which I feel is not a part of my physical experience. So that's where all the melody and the harmony come in.
Awesome. I want to play, when we come back from this break, I want to play the Ethereal Blues. You actually named a song, so I assume it's got some significance within the whole album.
Totally. Yeah. Kind of like the anthem to this whole album. It ties it together.
Nice word, anthem. Hey, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with Mimi Page. She is a singer, songwriter, composer, and she has a new album out. It just came out on November 13th.
It did. Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's a great day. And you can go to timdonnellyshow.com, click on the link there, go to her page, figure out how to buy it. And are you available at Amazon and all that?
Oh, yeah. I'm on all digital retailers. But if you want a physical copy, you have to go to mimipage.com, because it's on my own record label. So I will ship it out personally to you.
And she will. And I have a signed copy because I'm special and I know people. Anyway, hey, we will be right back with more of Mimi Page and the Ethereal Blues.
The world was on fire, no one could save me but you.
the track is actually the anthem track of the album, Ethereal Blues. The artist, Mimi Page, is live and in studio with us. Mimi, we were talking on the break about how this music has touched people. And I had told you, a friend of mine, I lent her the CD. She sent me a text after listening to it and said, "Forever changed. Music has never moved me like that. I am beyond words."
Wow.
And you told me that you're hearing from all kinds of people, a lot of veterans, a lot of military personnel, largely men, who say what?
That my music is very soothing and almost healing in a way. And I know a lot of people who have fought overseas, which I'm so grateful for, so much respect, that they suffer from PTSD from the things that they've seen and things that they've gone through. And so that's really a beautiful thing that I've realized, is that, you know, there is a place for healing music. And I believe in music therapy. I think that frequencies, depending what they are, they can heal the body. So kind of approaching this album, I wanted to create a really healing, beautiful space. Because a lot of us, the Ethereal Blues, the title track, is about going through life, and a lot of us go through trauma, even if it's emotional trauma, whatever. If we have loved ones die, we've been in abusive relationships, if we're sick from disease, life can be really challenging. So to not give up hope and realize, you know, that there's still a purpose here and there's love here. So just, I guess with music, it's hard to put into words, but sonically, I wanted to create a very loving space that if you were to listen to these melodies, it could be like a kind of a warm hug in a way.
Speaking of warm hugs, there's a track on here entitled "Hold Me," and I was listening to it, and first of all, I really like it, but then I was listening to the lyrics, and it was fever in my heart. Do I have it right?
Yeah.
And fire in my soul, or something like that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
That song, it's kind of, if you've experienced a bad breakup and you kind of write off love as being a part of your own destiny, and you think, okay, people are a certain way, I can't love the way that I've loved before, you know, if you've been hurt in the past. It was kind of writing from that perspective, because I did find love again, but I was in a really horrific relationship before this current relationship. And it was kind of writing from feeling that diseased feeling of like, I am unable to love. I'm an unlovable person, but feeling like I just actually want to be held. At the end of the day, regardless of what walls I've built up, I just want to be held. I think we all want to be held. And I think if we all held each other, it would be a very different world. But we don't do that. So
we don't do that enough. But Mimi Page, I want to thank you for coming in today. And by the way, your love is sitting right behind you. He looks like a page out of out of The Great Gatsby.
Oh my gosh. He does.
We've got Jason Robbins here, who is is he your manager? I mean, he helps.
Yeah, actually not by default. We kind of just fell into this. We were dating long before this happened, but yeah, when I decided to take my career an independent route, he was already managing a different band, so we just decided, you know, can we still be together and have this work out? And it's really been an incredible experience. So yes, we both do.
Well, that's awesome. Let's end this hour by going out with the song "Hold Me," and we will we'll end it there. Because everybody needs to be held.
Thank you so much, Tim. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Hey, the album is The Ethereal Blues. Mimi Page is the artist. MimiPage.com. Go to TimDonnelly.com. There's a link there. Whatever you do, go out and buy this music, and buy it for a loved one for Christmas. Perfect timing.
Perfect. Or your pet. Cats love it. Dogs love it. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, you are listening to the Radio Free California Network. And we just finished, I just said goodbye to our live in-studio guest, Mimi Page, and her manager / fiance, Jason Robbins. What an extraordinary young couple. It was such a delight to have them in studio, and her music, I love the thing she said at the end, that her music actually speaks to the soul and soothes the soul of a number of our veterans who have written to her about the effect her music has had on them, and many of them suffering PTSD from what they've been through and what they've seen. And wow. So it is Ethereal Blues. There's a link up at the website. You ought to go there. You can listen to some of it. And you can't download it for free, but you can listen to it for free and check it out. You heard a number of the clips on here, on our show, and we'll continue to play some. Sean's already working on turning some into in bumps and out bumps, because it's some really cool, different music that you don't hear every day. And anyway, that was fun. I love hearing people's stories, and so that brings me to, we're going to return to Will Smith, unless, of course, any of you want to call in. I see somebody was just dialing us, but we had a long break. 323-746-TALK. So if you do call in, I will take your calls, and we'll interrupt Will Smith. But we've been listening to an interview with Will Smith, who is sharing from his heart, which is very unusual, I think, for somebody so successful to be so humble and willing to tell you the secrets of his success. This is Will Smith in an interview with Hollywood Reporter.
You know, when you listen in the studio and you have a record that is so undeniable, it does not matter what you've done before. And you can tell everybody at the radio station and anybody who ever hated you ever, you can say, hey, F you. I dare you to try not to play this record.
Right. That's great. That's great.
And that's what we did. So we started looking for that with screenplays and with movies. And we wanted to look for concepts and ideas and casts and directors that were unassailable.
Mm-hmm. And so why was 6 Degrees that? And also, when you got so into it, what's the danger of that you learned on that one?
Oh yeah, it was 6 Degrees of Separation. That was my first acting experience with like that level of material, with Tony and Academy Award winning actors. It was Donald Sutherland and Stockard Channing and
amazing cast.
Yeah, it was a real ridiculous cast.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm the type of person, I don't consider myself particularly talented. I consider myself slightly above average in talent, but nobody's going to outwork me.
Right.
I am the most ridiculous, hardworking. I'll take a slight talent and then add the skill to it and can make it look magnificent. So I did that with 6 Degrees of Separation, and I went full method. And that was the first and last time that I ever did that. I was doing 9 days at a time where I wouldn't live a moment of the day that I wasn't in character.
Oh, jeez.
So I did that a couple times, and it really starts to affect your
toll.
Psychology.
Yeah.
And the movie was over and we left, and I realized that my character was in love with Stockard Channing.
Right.
So I realized when I got home, I was like, oh, shoot, I'm actually in love with Stockard Channing.
Wow. Well, hey.
I was like, ooh, this is not good. This is not good. Knocking at her door. Hey, Stockard, what you doing? Oh, you just chilling?
Right.
Okay.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So now, just a couple years, few years after that, as you say, it starts with blockbuster after blockbuster after blockbuster, which it's a track record that I think is still unparalleled. Mm-hmm. And for you, what was it like when you suddenly, and I know it probably looks more suddenly to the rest of us, but Bad Boys, Independence Day, Men in Black, all this, when it's all happening, your life has got to have changed. Not that you weren't already well known before, but now it always comes with it's a cost benefit, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
for you, the kind of loss of privacy, the fact that people are gonna, ask you about your family and your kids and your religion, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Was that something that you could adjust to seamlessly, or did it take a while?
Well, I say this all the time. If I had to grow up in the age of the internet and Twitter, there'd be a very, very different story that would be written. Fortunately, most of my career, I was shielded from that level of scrutiny. Mm-hmm. There actually was privacy. Mm-hmm. There was actually the ability to create mystery. Movie stars need mystery.
Yeah. People
need to not know in order to come to see you in a movie theater, whereas music is slightly different. People want to know you. They want to feel connected to you. So I had the opportunity to create the level of mystery in my life that it takes to be a movie star. And I'll be really interested to see if there will be any new movie stars. It's a difficult thing to create. So for me, I would say, to answer your question, I would say that I'm built for it, right? Like, I enjoy people. For the most part, I'm not doing things that if people saw, it would be a problem. Right. But I enjoy people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy interacting. So it hasn't been something that has been as frustrating for me as I've seen it be for others.
Right. When you have so much success and then there's a disappointment, which I hate to bring it up, but like Wild Wild West may have been, or After Earth. How do you handle the realization that even you are human?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I flop movies, I flop them at $250 million worldwide. Right. So we just first and foremost, we need to let's just say let's just say what So, but for me, $250 million at the worldwide box office is a flop. So
that's true.
It is. It's hard for me to live with that. It's hard. I struggle with that.
Right. You sleep at night.
I can't sleep at night. It only did $250 million.
No. But I mean, it seems from what I try to prep pretty thoroughly here, and I read at the time you particularly, I think you said maybe not so much Wild Wild West. It was early on. You didn't know that it was that it wasn't going to be like 10 in a row or whatever great ones. But After Earth hurt a little more, right?
Yeah, no, they both hurt. Anytime you put something out and it doesn't land the way that you want it to land, it's always painful. I exclusively create for the purpose of giving. Mm-hmm. I do very little. I'm making this because I want to make it. I'm going to push it through the studio and I make what I think will be helpful, which will things that will bring joy.
Yeah.
I guess the part that was most painful is like people act like you tried to make a bad movie. You know what I mean? Like people act like you tried to make. You're like, man, you know what? It's like it's a couple million people out there, and I just want to ruin their Friday and Saturday night. I want to get them in the theater and just give them something that just they don't appreciate at all.
No, well, I mean, the only reason I even mention it is because it's such a rare occurrence with you, and the other thing was that you said that. After Earth, there were a few minutes there where you felt horrible, and then you got some perspective, right?
Yeah, no, it was so it came out in the box office, and the opening was excruciating and all of that. And that Monday morning, after the box office receipts came out, and I had about 10 or 12 minutes where I was sulking, and then I got the phone call that my father had been diagnosed with cancer. And I was like, yep, thank you, God. Got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
I get it. I went downstairs. I got on the treadmill. I did my hour on the treadmill, and then I flew to Philly to see my father.
Yeah.
And that right there is one of the reasons why I love
Hollywood.
Will Smith. He has perspective, and man, I just can't get enough of listening to him talking about not only how he became successful, but see, here he's feeling bad about a job he did, something he produced, and then he gets perspective when he realizes what's really important, just like the rest of us. He's just like the rest of us, except that he gets paid $20 million a movie. Anyway, we'll be right back after this break, and we'll have more of Will Smith and his extraordinary story. Hey, you are tuned to a special edition of the Radio Free California Network. We are not doing politics today. I know, you're probably shocked. Maybe you got tired of relaxing and spending wonderful time with family. But hey, I decided that I wanted to go on a little bit of a positive kick. Earlier we had, and if you missed it, you need to go to timdonnellyshow.com on Monday or tomorrow or whenever it gets up there, depending on the schedule of our amazing technological genius, chief engineer, Sean McNeil, who, by the way, does all that. He takes the previous shows, records them, puts them up so that you can listen to them. You will not want to miss the interview with Mimi Page. She's an extraordinary artist. We will be playing some of her music as out bumps and in bumps occasionally, and I'll let you know when we do, and I'll let you know where you can go to find her music, because I just think in our crazy technological world where everything's going 900 million miles a second, got to take a moment to chill out. But she took us through the journey of her success, of how she went from being a 5-year-old who was beginning to compose music, she could hear it in her head, to now having some tremendous success, and she's just on the cusp of it. And we also are bringing you, so that's something you go to previous shows and listen to on our website, timdonnellyshow.com. But right now, I want to bring you back to Will Smith, who needs no introduction, one of the most successful movie stars in the world. And the guy is really, really intelligent when you listen to him talk. And from what it sounds like when he was talking about his early childhood and then later on as a teen, it didn't sound like he went to college. He said he had a friend who went off to college, and I don't think he did. And yet you listen to him, he's very well read, he's very well spoken, and he is incredibly successful, and he's sharing with us the secrets of his success. Will Smith.
It's like in Hollywood and in these types of heightened emotional and global arenas, you can get really lost.
Perspective-wise, yeah.
Perspective-wise, yeah. You can get deeply thrown into emotional foolishness.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm finding that is a little easier for me now. You need the failures and the things that don't go the way that you want to keep your perspective in line. So I'm finding myself able to enjoy many more aspects of the process, and I've made an emotional shift in my life from product to people.
Yeah.
And it's I create to create with people. I create for people, and trying to become a better person. So it's less about product and more about the spiritual and emotional interaction through the entire line of a project that becomes the quote unquote win.
Right. And if you have a slightly disappointing movie every 14 years,
right,
you're it's not such a bad thing. So one of the things that I found interesting was that you have done some of your very best work in biopics.
Right.
Your two previous nominations for Oscars, Ali and Pursuit of Happiness, people will remember. And I think your third is going to be Concussion. And the point, it's amazing. And the question, though, is in terms of budget, the stakes aren't necessarily always as high as they are with some of the bigger ones. But do you feel when you're doing them, the stakes are almost higher because you're entrusted with somebody's story, their life?
Yeah, the stakes for me in biopics is 10 times as high. Because at the end of this process, I'm going to sit in a movie theater next to the person who I've played. I've only ever played people who are still living.
Right.
So there's pros and cons to that. The pros are that you get stuck in a scene. You can actually call the person and ask them, "Hey man, what happened that day when them boys was tripping? What'd you actually say?" You get to talk, and there's a comfort in that. But then there's that difficult thing that never seems to dawn on me in the beginning. I always get in and then remember 3/4 of the way through the process, oh my God, they're going to watch this with their family. And so I'm 3 for 3 sitting in the theater watching it I watched Ali, sitting right directly behind Ali and Chris Gardner and now with Benedict Omalu. Yeah. So they've all given me the thumbs up.
Yeah,
so
very much
but
so.
it's excruciating.
Yeah. Well, now, so is there a strategy, though? Because in the sense that I know you say you make movies to entertain people and to tell a good story and all of that, but some other movie stars have said, and one of them, Clooney said, I think, one for them, one for me. I'm going to do a big one, and then I'm going to do one that I want to do. Right. And it allows that to happen. Do you have any sort of rhyme or reason to how you spread out your roles? Like biopics, they've been a few years in between each other.
Well, I've been very, very lucky that the ones for them have been ones for me, and the ones for me have been ones for them.
Yeah.
So the Pursuit of Happiness, which had no reason to have the global success that it had. And I still have no idea how you make a movie about a black dude in the 80s who gets a job.
And it does that well.
And it makes 300 worldwide. So I've been very, very blessed with not having to make that decision.
Yeah.
And what I'm always trying to do is there's the small character drama that every actor loves to sink their teeth into. So I'm obsessed with trying to put small character dramas into the middle of blockbuster packages. The most successful I've ever been with that concept is I Am Legend.
Yeah.
I Am Legend easily could have been a stage play.
Yeah.
Right? A one-man show.
Right.
A dude with a dog. And you generally would think you need a little bit more than that for a blockbuster. And to date, that's my biggest opening and my second biggest film. So
that movie right there is one that my boys and I love to watch. We watch it over and over again. So, it is amazing how you can make such an extraordinary story come to life with just a man and a dog. Anyway, more of Will Smith. And we'll take your calls. If you call in 323-746-TALK. Tim Donnelly Show continues. Special edition just for you. Welcome back to a special edition of the Tim Donnelly Show. Politics free. I think this is a first and may shock you, but if you're out battling the Black Friday crowds and traffic and mayhem, you don't need any more controversy and confrontation in your life. So we're gonna set politics aside till Monday, and we have had an interesting show. And if you're just tuning in, and maybe you're driving to Vegas, you've never heard the show, it's ordinarily we are on air 3 hours a day, 3 to 6 weekdays. Our website is timdonnellyshow.com. Call-in number 323-746-TALK. That's 323-746-8255 if you wish to opine. We've been listening to and we've been talking about inspirational topics. You know, where people come from, artists in particular. I've had Mimi Page, whose latest album, Ethereal Blues, just came out on Friday the 13th. You can go to timdonnellyshow.com, click there, listen to some of the music, buy some of the music. Makes great Christmas gifts, by the way. And we've been listening to the great actor, Will Smith, who doesn't think he's that great, by the way. He's got quite a sense of humor about himself. He's very open about his failures and his failings. But one thing I really, really liked about him, he says, look, I'm an maybe above average to above average actor. That's how he judges himself. But he says, try to outwork me. You are not going to be able to outwork me. And I love that. What he's talking about is the American work ethic. And there aren't very many people, well, that's not something you hear people talk about all the time. Anyway, more of Will Smith.
I know how to make a hit movie, right? I don't find it difficult at all to make a hit movie. I find it really freaking hard to make a good movie.
Well, is that why with Ali, you apparently, according to, I think, again, going back to some old articles, everything, sounds like there were a lot of years there, several years there, where you resisted, you were asked to do it, and you didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Why was that?
First of all, I was terrified to play Ali. There was a decade there where he was the individual most recognizable human being on earth.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a daunting task. And I also felt like people had been programmed with so many images of Ali that I would never get a fair shot, that they would just look at me and just take my interpretation of Ali. They'd be looking to match it to their ingrained images. And I didn't know how to do it. And I met with, a few directors, and then I sat with Michael Mann, and I didn't even want to meet when I was like, dude, I'm not playing. There's no way I'm playing Ali.
Right.
And he understood. He looked at me. He said, okay, here's the deal. He says, I know what you're scared of. He says, I am going to write the curriculum that will deliver you to the stage as Muhammad Ali. He says, all you have to do is do what I say. And I was like, now that I can do.
Yeah, right.
I can do that.
Yeah,
I'm really good at that. I grew up in a military household.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I can do what you say. But for me, I didn't know how to do it myself.
Right.
So when he laid out the curriculum for me, it wasn't easy, but I have no problem following steps when someone lays them out.
So it's like, see the archival footage, listen to these audio, get the accent, train.
He hired everybody. He put the team together. Yeah. He said, block me 8 hours a day for the next year. Yeah. And I was like, done.
Right.
And, he had me to get Ali's jab, right? He would have me sit in a dark room watching 15-minute loops of Ali just doing the one move with the jab, sitting in the dark, and he was trying to burn neural passages.
Right.
I was like, I love Michael Mann. That is my guy.
And the next thing you know, you're sitting there between Ali and Mandela. Right?
Absolutely, yes, exactly.
It worked out.
It worked out really good.
And then there are times, so in that case, they went after you, and then my understanding was with Pursuit of Happiness, and you could see we're going through the 3 biopics, because I think these should be revisited by people. With Pursuit of Happiness, you went after that 2020 episode, that thing, just faithfully you happen to see it, right?
Yeah, what happens in Hollywood in terms of development is when you can see the 3-act structure of a story And those 20/20 and 60 minutes pieces, they do such a brilliant job of laying out the story in the 3-act structure. And the character is so clear. And when you can get one of those, it's really smooth and easy and brilliant. Ali was difficult in that there was so broad, the sprawling landscape of story. It was difficult to construct it. Whereas with Pursuit of Happiness, 20/20 did the heavy lifting in the 3-act structure. And for Concussion, Jean Marie did a really beautiful job in the GQ article of breaking the beginning, middle, and end of the story down.
Right. So with Pursuit of Happiness, just to touch a little bit more on this for a second, at the time, some people were saying, Will Smith's been successful since he was 17, 18, whatever. Yeah. How can he know what it's like to play a homeless guy and whatever? Forgetting, I mean, that's what acting, that's what it is. But I wonder how helpful it was for you in getting into the emotional side of this character by having your son play his son.
Yeah.
Was that key?
Yeah, having my son there really helped. Chris Gardner was great because I went to San Francisco with Chris Gardner, and he walked me through the steps of his life.
Wow.
So we went into that bathroom a month before shooting, and he talked me through the sequences. And Chris Gardner's story wasn't that drastically different from my father's story.
Really?
So in my comprehension of the character, I was using Chris Gardner's life, but I was using my emotional comprehension from my father.
He had a similar thing with his job?
He had a similar thing, and he built his own business.
Wow.
Right? So he was in the Air Force, and he came out of the Air Force and essentially, started his own business. So, when we were growing up, there were, plenty nights when the electricity was off. And
wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was the dude that the electric company would come out and they would disconnect the electricity, and he would put his ladder up and climb up the pole and turn it back on.
Hey, taking the initiative.
Yeah, he was that guy.
Wow. And, you mentioned the scene in the bathroom, and I think that long after all of us are gone, that's going to be one of those scenes that keep getting played. And do you remember since that's in some ways the one that seared most into people's minds.
Yeah.
Take us back to that day. What was that like?
It was what was really beautiful and in doing it with my son is the experience that my son was having was mirroring the experience that Chris Gardner was trying to create for his son. So for my son, he actually fell asleep on my lap in this bathroom. And so we just kept rolling. We were there for 20, 30 minutes. And then it just hit me what this must have been like. So I had the time to just sit in that bathroom with my son falling asleep on my lap. And then it just smashed down on me what that must have been like for Chris Gardner.
And that's the tears.
That's I just lost it. Yeah. So it was extremely helpful to have my son in there on my lap, and the pain that he was having fun. It was like fun. Where he's going to sleep in a bathroom and all, and it was that, that was the experience Chris Gardner was trying to create for his son. And I got completely smashed by that.
Well, connecting that with Concussion, one thing that you've said, actually all three biopics, I think, you said that Michael Mann and I hope I pronounce it right, it's Gabriele Muccino. Who you also
La ricerca della felicità. That's what it's called in Italy. La ricerca della felicità.
Well, so he, and we should mention you also did 7 Pounds with him.
Yeah.
You've said, quote, those are the two directors that I've worked with that know all my tricks. They can see right through me and all of the Willisms and the things that I know how to do to make the audience laugh or smile or cry. I would think if I'm a director who's not already pretty established in this country, that takes a pair to go after you and tell you don't make that face or don't do whatever.
Yeah.
But you liked it.
Yeah, Gabriele is 100% artist. Right? He is not focusing on the business or the final product, or he lives in every single moment 100%. And he can so see, he's an empath. So he feels everything, and he can see when you're not, when you're trying to make a face that looks like you're sad versus digging and
Right.
deep to find it. So, he is a brilliant emotional director. So he's taking himself there emotionally with you. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times he's directing you from tears, and so he is. It's almost like he's helping you with the emotion as you go through.
Wow. So,
Hey, we've been listening to Will Smith, an incredible interview where he talks about a whole lot of things, including the fact that he may want to get into politics. We'll continue that right after this break. Tim Donnelly Show, special holiday edition, politics free, by the way. Is that like gluten free? Stay tuned. We are going to finish up and treat you to the end of this interview where Will Smith has an interesting announcement that does hint at potential politics in his future. Here's Will Smith in his own words.
Doing in the film, and even the juxtaposition of imagery is a huge thing. What you're cutting from to makes a statement.
Yeah.
So we were very, very careful to make sure that we weren't trying to paint good guys and bad guys. Bennett kept saying the truth doesn't have a side.
Right. And that's such a great monologue, the one that you do with the truth.
Absolutely.
So when people see this movie, what is it that you hope that they will leave it thinking or doing differently? It seems like, I mean, obviously, again, it seems first and foremost you want people to have a good time at the movies,
Absolutely.
be entertained.
Absolutely.
But it's obviously biting off a big issue and one that's important to you. So what would you like them to think or do after they leave?
I think in terms of Dr. Omalu's story, I would love for people to take away the importance of standing up. You know, the importance of using your faith or whatever strength you have to call on to tell and demand the truth. I think that there is such a potential higher quality of human interaction if we could tell each other the truth. And then also if we could make receptive places for the truth. That's another aspect also. Mm-hmm. We generally don't, create a receptive space in ourselves to hear the truth. I'd love for people to take away the Dr. Omalu's reverence for the American dream.
Right. Which you have also said what your story could only have happened in America.
Absolutely.
Right.
I feel like, even in terms of relating to the character, America is the only place on earth that I could exist.
Right.
No other country on earth produces Will Smiths.
Right.
It's
true.
No other country on earth produces Denzel Washington's, or Oprah Winfrey's, right? So
It's still got a long way to go, but it's possible, yeah.
Or Barack Obama's,
right?
So, if you look back historically of how black people have had it on the planet, America is elevating quite well,
right.
Based on the history of our people. So when I want people to be able, I hope that people will take away the power of the American dream that Dr. Omalu seized on.
Sure. Well, the last question is this. Here we are. It's late 2015. You have a beautiful family. You've realized that dream of becoming the biggest movie star, bringing this whole conversation full circle. And, you now, I think are starting to receive for this performance. And I think it's just the beginning of a season of appreciation for not just being a big movie star, but also a great actor. And so I wonder, what do you, at this point in time, so we can go back and listen to this in 20 years or whatever. What do you make of it all, and what's your outlook for the future? Is there anything you haven't accomplished yet that you would really like to, or are you pretty content guy?
I'm a climber. So if I see a mountain, I have to climb it. I'm not a camper. I don't like I don't like hanging in one place too long. It's, so I think at this point I'm elevating my ability to be useful in the world. I think that's what my grandmother always hoped, that I would make myself useful to people in this lifetime. So I'm working really hard, and my storytelling is elevating, my ability to be eloquent with my body and with my voice, and to deliver ideas as an actor is elevating. As I look at the political landscape, I think that there might be a future out there for me.
Yeah, really?
They might need me out there.
But are you serious? Because I think it would be great. Is that something you've thought about?
I've been. This is the first year that I've been incensed to a level that I can't sleep. So I'm feeling that at some point in the near future, I will have to lend my voice to the conversation in a somewhat different way.
Well, that would be wonderful, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, man.
You heard it right here on the Tim Donnelly Show. That Will Smith talking about maybe running for office. I love his line, "I'm a climber, not a camper." And he doesn't consider himself extremely talented, but he knows that he can outwork anyone. Food for thought. Special edition of the Tim Donnelly Show. Go out, have a great holiday, and we will talk to you on Monday. God bless you, and Godspeed. Tim Donnelly Show, out.